Looks like our guest has arrived, Ateba Gaines. So we'll talk to her for half hour, 45 minutes. And I encourage you to ask questions. Has a wonderful story and another example of someone who has created something, invented something, couple things actually.
And I want to remind everybody, if you click on your speaker view in the top right, you can feel so you're right there with our wonderful speaker, Ateba Gaines. Welcome to Invention Bootcamp. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or is it afternoon for you?
I know, good afternoon, and it's hot here in Virginia. I'm trying to see if I can get some light going on right here. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, you're looking beautiful. What's the cartoon behind you? Is this part of your artwork or project or what?
Yes. So this is, you remember Batman and Robin back in the day? Kaboom, bang, bam, boom, pow. So the theme of my organization is building the next generation of superheroes. So this is the superheroes that I grew up off of. So I love the wall. So I had them build a whole wall of kaboom, bam, pow.
Nice.
That's great.
Yes. Well, I have like my Wonder Woman. I don't know if you can, let me see if I can turn my floor to the ground. Wonder Woman rug.
That's great.
I
know you're like, wow, the speaker's like moving her computer all over the place, but you know, I just
that's one of your superpowers.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us and welcome to Invention Bootcamp. We've chatted a little bit via email, and I want to give you time to tell your story. And we have some questions that I've thought about, and we hope we usually get some good questions from our students as well. So I know you would do a better job of introducing yourself than me, but I do know that you spent some time in Portland and you're a PSU grad, and I don't know, this is maybe just my ego speaking, but I thought it was pretty cool that you sought out Portland from Virginia and you came across the country.
Well, you know, the reason why I sought out Portland was because back then I was looking for a program that I could learn Chinese. Because so this was the reason why I chose Portland. I like Chinese food, and I would go into the Chinese restaurants all the time, and I didn't understand what they were saying. So I wanted to learn Chinese so I could respond back. So I looked for a graduate school that had a Chinese program to learn Chinese, and it was Portland State. And they had the MEM program, International Management Program. And so I got accepted to that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I can go and study Chinese. Even though I didn't do that well, and after the first semester, my teacher said, I never heard it said like that before. I had to move it to Japanese, but I did try to do Chinese. He said, I never heard it said like that before. I said, oh, because I know what it was. She asked us to say what was our favorite food. So everybody had used all the terms that we learned in Chinese and everything. So I was like, okay, what am I going to say? So I said, Pichi Lean, ghetto fan. And ghetto fan was, you know, soul food, ghetto food. So they quickly kicked me out of that course and I went into Japanese. So, and all I can remember now is Wadoka desu ka? I don't think that's where's the bank. So please forgive me. I know I get off topic sometimes and I have jokes to tell, but I'll always come back around to the main point.
Well, I like I said, that stuck with me because of just, you know, it's my little like, oh, you came to visit, you came to be with us. So I thought that was cool. The other, I think we can circle back maybe a little later. We talk about questions from the students in the camp, but the idea of you chose a college with an intent. You had a vision of what you wanted to become and how a certain opportunity aligned with that, which I think is a real interesting and useful way of, you know, forming our future, shaping ourselves.
Well, definitely, you can't be fearful. You know, if there's something that you want to learn and there's only a particular place or school that teaches it, then you say yes, or say yes to the opportunities.
Mhm.
And I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, I'm so thankful that I said yes, because at the time I was working for Pepsi. I was a recruiter for Pepsi, and that was a great position. I could hire people to work for Pepsi and things. And there was something that was pushing me that wanted to know more, that wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn Chinese, and I wasn't fearful. When I said I was, first of all, I wasn't fearful to apply to see if I can get accepted. I got accepted, and I wasn't fearful to get a U-Haul and drive cross country by myself. So with a son, I had a 2-year-old, and he was rambunctious. He was a trip, but I did it because it was something that I knew I wanted to do, and I felt like it was calling me in that direction. And then I wound up working for one of the greatest companies in the world, I think, Nike. So a lot of things followed after that.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your story. You have, in a way. Is there something else we should know about you as we begin to hear more of your story of both as it relates to boot camp, but just how you think about the advice? One of the questions we talked about is the advice you would give to yourself in high school, right? And is there something we want to talk about before that, or want to just jump right into that advice from high school?
Well, for me, I grew up in an abusive environment. My father, sexually abused me. And so for me, I always felt like I had no power. And so that's why as an adult, you may say, what's that 40-year-old woman doing with all this superhero stuff around me? For me, I wanted to become Wonder Woman. I wanted to, I would watch Wonder Woman on the black and white, and I would see how powerful she was with her golden lasso. And she was able to fight injustice. And there was a lot of injustice taking place in my home that I felt like I had no power over. And so as a teenager, because I felt powerless, I didn't understand that the power was within me, but not only that, the power was in education. I never thought I could go to college or anything. Steve, my father only went as far as the 5th grade. He didn't finish. He dropped out of the 5th grade. There was 9 of them, and they had to all work and, get food. So he dropped out and began to wash windows in Jersey. I grew up in Jersey City. My mother never graduated. She graduated later on in her 50s with her associate's degree, and then she went on to get her bachelor's. So education for me, I didn't even know how to fill out a FAFSA. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know how to even apply to get into a college. It was something that I thought that was something far, far away. And so I knew that I wanted to do something as far as like social justice, and because I felt like there was power in that. There was power in Wonder Woman, that golden lasso, when she looped it around a person and made them tell the truth. I wanted that experience, but I didn't know what it was going to look like until later on in my life. And so what I would say to that young Ateba would be to really not spend so much time with peers and partying and things like that, because I had low self-esteem, but I would have really begun to work on my GPA then, and so that I could have access to one of the top universities and be able to, go to a great school, even though it was fine because I was able to go to a community college, and a community college was a great platform to show me that I was smart enough to do, to gain a degree. My first degree was an associate's degree. But for me, I just felt like I would tell my younger self, my high school self, to really focus on school. And that no matter what's happening at home that you may not have control over, what you do have control over is your own personal story, of your own personal development. And if I would have known that in high school, but I found it out later on in my 20s, I would probably be further along. Although I'm thankful for every part of my journey, because it's taught me a lot. It taught me that I can be strong, and that I do have power over injustice. And the power that I have is through my voice, speaking up when I see an injustice, fighting for those that can't fight for themselves, encouraging those that can't encourage themselves. All of those are part of being a superhero, which currently at 40, I'm not Wonder Woman, but I'm a superhero in my own right.
Do you do you think that the superhero that led you to the Unreasonable Kids was something that was um, crystal clear, like the Wonder Woman, or is that something that also evolved? I mean, how do we mix our like our internal vision of now with that longer process of how who we become?
The first thing I would say is that I feel like in your life, you go through life and you have these opportunities. And remember, I said, if you have a great opportunity, say yes, ignore the fear and accept the challenge. And because I was able to start saying yes to a lot of opportunities, all those opportunities taught me that led me up to this point. And I preface it by saying that. The reason why I say that is because every opportunity led me to the next step. And if I wouldn't have said no, then I wouldn't be, I don't think, where I'm at right now. So for example, if I would have said, I remember that high school, a friend in high school said, oh, you can go to college. And I said, how can I go to college? I don't even know what a FAFSA is. If I would have said no and not researching and continued on, I would have never went and got my associates. When I went to Tidewater Community College and received my associates, I met a professor there called Dr. Samuel Lamb, and he was a doctor. And I remember getting my associates, and it was so bad. I didn't know nothing about school that when I was on the dean's list, I thought I was in trouble. I thought the dean was calling me down to tell me that I did something wrong. But the dean's list meant you had a good GPA. Who would have thought? I didn't know. But am I in trouble? They said, oh, no, that's good. I'm like, oh, okay, the dean's list is a good thing? Okay, because remember. So I remember working for Dr. Samuel. He was a provost at the college. And he said, Ateba, one day I know that you can get your doctor's degree. And I said to him, what? He said, you're going to be Dr. Gaines one day. And now I'm not Dr. Gaines yet, but I'm working on it at Johns Hopkins. But the reason why I said that is because I never thought, remember, I didn't think about college until that friend said, you can go to college. I didn't think about getting my doctorate until Dr. Samuel Lamb said, I know you can get your doctorate, and I'm working on my associate's degree. But it inspired me. And each step and each time when I said yes, when somebody said something that seemed so far away and a challenge, it moved me to the next level. Now at Pepsi, I was the recruiter. I was the top person. There's no way you can go after that. I hired people at Pepsi. So people say, oh, well, you got your bachelor's degree. I got my associate's and my bachelor's degree. But the thing is, like, if I would have said no to going to Oregon because I wanted to learn Chinese, but I wanted to accept the challenge, I would have never worked for Nike. And then when I worked for Nike, I became the manager. I started out in customs rep and moved on to compliance. And then I became the product manager for the Southeast Asia account. So I managed all of the product for Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and India. Product placement, adapting the product to fit the local market, working with sales reps and all that. But I would have never had that opportunity if I would have never said yes to that program that in turn introduced me to international trade and export that I found out that I was really good at and I loved. Then that led me to the next step. Then after that, I decided that somebody said to me in my graduate program, because it was an international accounting class at Portland State University. It was in the MEM program. She said, you're good at describing things and explaining things to the classroom, because I would have questions and I would describe it in a way that people were like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And so when she spoke that to me, that was a clue in my journey to say, oh, well, I think that I'm good at teaching. So then I decided to apply to a college there, Concordia University. I taught part-time there, a master's program there. And then I did well at that. So each step of me listening, because you have to listen, that when somebody identifies something and says, hey, I think that may be your it. And then you accept that. It's not that you accept it as your own, but you think about it and you put it away on a shelf, but you always remember. Then that led me to accepting a job with international, the Southeast Asia account. From there, I went from there and I taught at the university. I was there for 5 years. I taught international marketing. And then from there, I said, I want to start a social enterprise. I want to raise money for human trafficking shelters because previously, going back to my youth days, I told you about what my dad did, but also I winded up on the streets. So I knew the hurt that young girls were coming out of because I was one of those girls on the streets. So this was the point in my life that I wanted to give back to a group that I understood personally because of my own personal experience. So I started raising money for human trafficking shelters here in the United States, especially at a time when people believed that human trafficking wasn't happening in the United States. It was happening in developing countries, but it does happen here. And it especially happens in Portland. Portland was a big hub for that. So it worked with executive directors that were hosting shelters to raise money through the donation of celebrity shoes. And remember, I came from Jersey, and I just had an idea one day. Why don't I reach out to some celebrities and ask them for shoes? Now, any person would say to themselves, I don't know how to reach out to no celebrity. I don't even know a celebrity. But see, for me, I could ask because I never was afraid of the no. You can never be afraid of the no. You have to embrace the no. In life, you're going to have no's. Don't worry about that. But what you have to do is you have to have courage to ask. And if they say no, it may be two things: not yet, or it may be that there's someone else better. When you understand that, then you're not fearful of asking someone to mentor or help you in a certain area or whatever it is. So I asked. And my first celebrity donor was Sarah Jessica Parker. And she donated 7 pairs of shoes to my organization. And then I continued on. I asked Kristen Stewart. I asked Jada Pinkett, Sanaa Lathan, so on and so on. And every celebrity I asked said yes. Now, there was some celebrities that said no that I don't like today. I'm just joking. I mean, seriously, I don't. Because first of all, you have a lot of shoes in your closet. You can't send me one shoe to sell so that I can give it to a shelter. There's something wrong with that. But anyway, that's my pet peeve. But what I'm saying to you is always remember that each step is another step to the next step. And at the end of it, it's like taking a bag with you throughout life and every experience thrown in that bag. And then you shake it up and then you pull it out and it's your special gift. It's your special gift. It's the thing that you were called to do through your school, every experience you had, life. It's your unique thing that only you can bring forth into this world. So this is Unreasonable Kids. It's an opportunity for me to use all the things that I've learned throughout my experience to teach other kids how to create social enterprise and how to become a superhero. I don't know the situations that they're going through at home. I don't know if they feel powerless like I did at home, but this is their opportunity to understand that within them, they have a special gift and they have ability to become a superhero and do things for good.
That's lovely. Can you tell me a little more about if I was interested as a unreasonable kid or a future unreasonable kid? What do I do? I come to your workshop. What's my experience becoming an unreasonable kid?
So the age is 6. I say 7 to 17, but there's been some 6-year-olds that have slid in. They come in, and then it's okay. And then I had a 5-year-old this last week. And he was really smart too. You can sign up. I'm on OutSchool. I also have Sawyer's Tools. There's registrations for that. My website is unreasonablekids.org. And I have a list of courses. And the cool thing about the courses, not only do they learn how to create a business, but they learn how to create a business for a personal good. What that means and what it looks like is that I teach them about the UN SDG goals. I don't know if you know about the UN SDG goals.
Tell us.
Yes, so the United Nations Sustainability Goals, it was started, I believe, in 2015, where 176 countries came together. And what they did is they looked at the world's most challenging problems. There's 17 of them. And so there's a chart so there's 17 problems. And you can if you Google UN SDG 17, you can see the list from poverty to hunger to all the land issues, water waste, scarcity issues. And so what the UN asks is that everyone adopts one of those goals and works towards solving the problem. And so that's a process. So what you learn in the class is you learn about the UN SDG goals, and then you select one area that you would like to focus on. And then I go into qualitative and quantitative research. Yes, at 6, they do qualitative and quantitative research, and they know how. They do. And they research it, because you can't say that there's a problem if you do not. Thank you for putting that up there. Thank you. You can't say that there's a problem if you haven't done the data to find out what it looks like and how to segment that market. Because you could say, okay, I want to focus on, I think number 1 is poverty. I want to focus on poverty. Okay, poverty is huge. You have to segment the market. You got to say, okay, so am I going to work on poverty for teens, for youth? Am I going to think about poverty for senior citizens? Am I going to think about poverty for refugees? You have to segment that market. Once you segment that market, then you begin to create, then you can better understand that target market, that most vulnerable population that you're focusing on, and you can better understand how to create your solution. Then you move to the solution tree. The solutions tree is a tree. And within the tree, there's the circle, and that's the problem, right? So if you have poverty in the middle of it, we're going to deal with poverty with refugees. Then we want to look at what programs are all the way out there, already out there. What we don't want to do is reinvent the wheel, especially when, nonprofits and always do reinvent the wheel, then they compete with each other. We want to understand that we're a tree, and that on this tree, everybody has, there's branches. There's a program that may be policy reform. There's a program that may be education and advocacy. There's a program that may be fundraising, whatever. But you want to look at all those programs that are already part of the tree, and they have their own branch, and then you want to find the missing branch. So I usually do like this, the missing branch. That's your piece. What's not being done? And then you want to work in that area. And there's always an area that's missing, because a tree if you look at a tree outside, like I'm looking at trees right now, there's a lot of branches within that tree, and you can find your branch. But never compete. That's a problem with a lot of nonprofits. They compete with each other, and nothing is ever done because of their competition.
So I'm an unreasonable kid now. I'm really inspired by this. What skill or attitude or how when I think you talked earlier about paying attention to school and building skills, what skills are to fill in those branches? What skills or attitudes do I need to cultivate in myself to be successful at that?
First of all, you have to understand that you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like, that's ridiculous. Why are you going to keep getting the same knot in the center of your head because you keep beating your head against the same wall? You have to think about when you think about being unreasonable, it's really unreasonable thinking. And unreasonable thinking is thinking that something that nobody's ever done. If you imagine a gift box, and in this gift box are all the things that's been done already, you want to create something outside of the box. And so so that takes time. It doesn't just, oh my gosh, this is the idea. No, and a lot of my students that I've taught, even as far as students go, I taught last summer at Stanford, and there's young people from all around the world that came in, they had these ideas, and I said, nothing. You have to start over. You have to do the research. And a lot of them came up with ideas and realized that there was something already out there, or it wasn't, they didn't take the time to really think about the process and understand that they had to think differently. Being an unreasonable person means that people are going to say, why are you doing that? Like when I did shoe revolt, people was like, shoes and human trafficking? That doesn't make any sense. But that made sense to me because at the time, nobody was talking about human trafficking. And when they were talking about human trafficking, they had images of kids in a corner and scary and it just was, like, oh my gosh, you wanted to cry. And it is a bad thing. But for me, I knew that the only way I was going to get people to talk about it was to do the opposite. Bring in fashion, bring in shoes, bring in celebrity. So we're talking about shoes and celebrities, but then at the same time, you remember that we're kicking human trafficking to the curb without shoes. So it's thinking about things. in a deeper way and thinking. That's why I tell you about the tree. Find the niche that nobody's done before. You know, like a lot of times we spend times competing with all these areas that stuff has already been done, when there's something else out there that if you take time to really research it, think about it, and think about it again, and research it again, and think about it. That's what we do. We have a whiteboard. We erase it, draw it out again, erase it, and draw it. And it's usually in the fourth or fifth time that you have this aha moment where it's like, wow, that's unreasonable. There's a TED talk out there with a lady that talks about unreasonable thinking. And she gives the example of a company. I think it's in New Zealand, or I can't remember where the company is located, but it's not in the United States. And this company had an idea they wanted to build video games or something technical. And so what they said, what we're going to do is we're going to hire all our autistic adults for our company. No one else but now people say, what? You know, but let me tell you, I have autistic students, and they'll tell you that they're autistic, but they are geniuses. They are smart. The way that they think, this company only hired autistic adults because they understood the brain and development and how they think and the process and how designing and building. And they understood that this group, all the people say, oh, they're very intelligent, and the company has success. So it's doing something like that. People say, what are you going to hire? And it's unreasonable. Do you understand what that is? Would you understand what you're doing? Yes, unreasonable thinking. But if you think about it clearly, you do the research, you see that that's the best group to hire for that position.
I believe Microsoft has a division for folks who are out in the spectrum, and that they work well together, and they're extremely creative and extremely insightful about things in ways. And I think we all have to acknowledge that we all want purpose.
Yes.
And if you can give somebody a chance to show their purpose and to grow, it's a gift to everybody, but it's like what we would want for ourselves.
Yes. And I have a lot of students in my class, and Aiden, you know, he's amazing. The questions that he comes up with, and all of I've had executives, top executives come and speak to the students, and I mean, he gets in and he asks them questions, and he always says, I'm autistic. He tells them, and he says, and they're just blown away. So we have to get out of the normal thinking. We have to move into another area. What have we missed? What hasn't been done? We don't want to keep creating the same wheel. That's crazy, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the skills that you help develop or nurture I can really see how this applies to inventing new things. And that's what we do in our camp. And I want to talk about invention. But I also am curious how you see those skills of creativity or problem solving or being unreasonable, thinking outside the box. How do they apply to everyday life, or do they?
They do. I think that when you get in the habit of your thinking outside the box, you're thinking in a way, I think you create more opportunities for yourself. I think that a lot of things that's happening right now in our world with COVID-19, I think that education is going to move in a way for parents where they're going to decide, they know their child better than the school system knows their child, and they're going to begin to determine what type of education, what does that education look like for them. For example, my Jewel, who's 12, is totally different than my Jeremiah, who's 17. And they're going to begin to design curriculum at home for their students, which are their children, that is more fitting for them, because they understand that the world is so big. And I think what the public school system does is that they give everybody the same information, the same topics, the same thing. I mean, it's like little clones, you know, where you need to really take time to get to understand each person. So even if you're in a public school system, you have to begin to explore. If there's a field that you want to go into, Google research it. My oldest son, he's an animator. And I remember when he was 12, he was a tennis player. He was really good. He was a ball boy for Venus, Serena and Venus, the tennis people. Yeah, I don't even know, but he was a ball boy for them. and Fredera, he could tell you the names. But we used to go to all these events and stuff. And then at 12, he picked up a camera and he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. And I remember him asking me to take him to the library and then Barnes and Noble. And he found all these books and he taught himself. He went to college, but a lot of the animation and the tools that he's still teaching himself. He's just built his own computer. What I'm saying is that I think for each individual student, even us as older adults, we have to continue to learn. We have to know thyself so that we can begin to educate ourselves even more, so that when we're going out to pursue our goals or the dreams that we want to have that seem so big, they're not so big, because we're going to find a way to pursue it. For example, I'm just making this up. If you want to be a astronaut / mechanic, I know a mechanic in the space, I'm just making it up. What are the ways that you can get there? Okay, you might take some classes, you might see that there's someone out there that you can reach out to mentor you. You can ask them for an informational interview. You can seek out books. Students nowadays, especially high school students, need to take ownership over their learning. And if there's something in your school that you're not learning, then we have the internet, and definitely reach out to people that are doing it already. That was the biggest thing for me at Nike. And I think that's what helped me to move up. I would always go around and ask people, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because I wanted to learn. You have to have a teachable spirit. And they loved to tell me about what they were doing. And then sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't want to do that. Yeah, that's not. And then somebody, oh, that's good. Okay. And I'll research it a little bit more. No, that's not me. And I kept looking and searching until I found my niche. And I think that that's very important for you to invest in yourself. You to take time to invest in yourself and think about where you want to be in 10, 20 years and what you want your life to look like. Because anything is possible. You just have to invest in yourself to do it.
I welcome other folks to drop questions in the chat or speak up. So I'm going to keep asking questions. I don't mean to be the only one, though. So maybe we'll get some other ideas. When I hear you talking, it's very inspiring. Everything you've done is really inspiring. And sometimes when I'm around inspiring people, I feel sort of small and like uncertain of myself, or I feel like, oh, well, Ateba could do that, but maybe I couldn't do that. What do you say to those of us who are still trying to figure out what we want to do, and this seems like a lot?
You know, I would think about one of the speakers I had on. His name is Darren Roberts. He's an ex-NFL football player. He's also a Harvard graduate. He went to law school. His name is Darren Roberts. And he talks about how he applied to Harvard, I think 3 times. He didn't give up. And he also talks about if you wait for something to be perfect before you start, you'll be sitting on the sideline forever. No matter if you're young, you have to understand that time waits for no one. No man, no woman. It moves on. And if you wait for the perfect opportunity to come, or the perfect picture, the perfect wardrobe, or the perfect look, you're never gonna start. And a lot of times what that is self-sabotage. We say we're gonna do it, we say that we wanna start, but then we sit on the sidelines and we judge ourselves and feel like we can't start because we don't have all the tools that we need to get there. And like what Mr. Roberts says, he applied to Harvard 3 times to law school. The 3rd time he got in. He said he's gotten no's so many times, but he continues to be persistent. And when you get those no's, there's a certain point where you feel like, oh man, you feel little. I mean, even I go through that sometimes. And I have to step myself out of it. And like I said, remember what I said about the no's? It's either not right now or there's someone better. And it's not just me saying this. Kimberly Davis, she's the VP of the National Hockey League. She was one of the speakers as well. She said, and also, you have to get comfortable with the no's. And the way that you do that is by understanding and not taking it personal, and understanding that one, it may mean not yet, or there's someone else out there better. You have to invest in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. And even when you don't believe in yourself, fake the funk. I don't know if you know fake the funk, because it's probably like in the 1980s when that saying was. Basically, it means pretend, pretend, pretend until it's reality.
We spoke a little bit this morning about growth mindset, which sounds a lot like that. The not yet piece, you know, that a failure isn't some intrinsic property that I have, but rather this time that I tried, I didn't quite get it right, and I've got to if I want to succeed, I'm going to have to accept that that didn't turn out and say, well, what did I learn from that?
I have a question. So you said for the no, sometimes it's not right now, or there's someone better. How do you go about navigating there's someone better?
Well, say, for example, if I want to understand how to become an executive for the National Hockey League, and I ask an executive, hey, can I talk to you for 15 minutes, have an informational interview with you for 15 minutes? They say, oh, no, maybe check back. Or they'll say, no, right now I don't have time. Da, 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 da. It wasn't meant to be. Because what is meant to be for you is going to be. So you keep looking and you find the next person. You don't stop. So if you want to know executive of the National Hockey League, you keep looking through the directory of names and you keep reaching out. So for me, with my nonprofit, when I was raising money for human trafficking shows, I could have, when I got the no's from, I can give you some names, you'd be like, they said no? Yeah. I could have said, I'm not going to ask anymore. I give up. Maybe this is not a good idea. I said, no, keep asking. I was one of those kids that when my mother put me on punishment, I kept asking and asking and asking until she took me off. That's it. So I realized if I keep asking, she's gonna get tired enough. She's gonna take me on punishment.
So then when you say that there's someone better, do you mean like there's someone better that you can go to, or that they're saying no because there's someone better than you that they're considering?
And that's not the, I'm saying that's not the person you're supposed to connect with.
Okay.
So you're searching for that person. Everybody has that person for, you know, for your, to mentor you. For example, I remember when I was working for Nike, I would come in early in the morning because I had to talk to countries, you know, and it was a time zone issue. So I would come in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And every day I would talk to this guy that was walking in with me, this older gentleman. I didn't know who he was. We were just having conversations. And who would know that after I left Nike, I brought some product from Brand Jordan, and people in Virginia were loving the product from Brand Jordan. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna call up Brand Jordan and see if they can bring some product here because it'll sell well in Virginia, so on and so on. So I make the call, and then people are like, okay, well, you have to talk to the president because, you know, he'll know if that's the market that he wants to focus on. So I call, and then this voice sounds familiar. Like, it sounds like Larry. And I'm like, Larry? He's like, yeah, T, but this is me. I said, you're the president of Brand Jordan? He said, yeah. You know, those were opportunities. So you'll find opportunities when you're in the right space. And then what happened is that every day we talked and built a relationship. You know what happened? He became my mentor. And I asked him, and he said yes. But then there was other times at Nike, like for Nike Foundation with Mary, you know, I'm not gonna say her last name, but she said no. But she wasn't the right person to be my mentor, especially for the journey that I was going on. I needed to be connected to Larry, who built Brand Jordan, that understood shoes and designs and celebrities. You see what I'm saying? So you'll know it's not somebody, I'm saying somebody better to kind of give you a boost for your confidence and stuff. But what I'm saying, you'll find the person who's right for you. I thought it was Mary. It wasn't Mary at Nike. It was Larry instead. And he became my mentor throughout me creating Shureval, and he's still a constant in my life. And I didn't even know, it was just me having a conversation. Another thing I want to make a note to you, always treat everybody with respect. Always respect people's time. And when they talk to you, I don't care if it's the most boring speech you ever heard, you listen to it like it's the last speech you'll ever hear in your life. Because they're giving you their time. And in that, I'm telling you, that they like to talk about themselves. I'm not kidding. Those people in high, they love to talk. You ask them 15 minutes, you say, and this is the big thing. You never ask to say, oh, can I have a half an hour? Oh no, you're gonna get a no straight up, because they don't have a half an hour. You say, can I just get 15 minutes real quick to talk to you about this? I really admire what you're doing. And they say, oh yeah, 15 minutes. But you know what winds up happening? You get into the meeting at 1 o'clock. The meeting's supposed to be over at 1:15. They don't love talking about themselves. They're gonna keep you in there till 2:15. I'm telling you, it happens all the time. Like David Bird, he's another one that's my mentor now. He was under Ben Carson, and he was mentoring me for some research I was doing at Johns Hopkins. I said, he's an existing secretary deputy or something like that. I said, can I just have 15 minutes? I just need to talk to you about something. He's like, sure, come up to the, I finally found where he was at. It was really hard to get there. He said, I have 15. I said, no, I need 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. I was in there for an hour and a half. He canceled another meeting to stay in there with me to continue to talk. And now he's the national director of, he just got this higher position. But I built those relationships by respecting their time and respecting their story. And truly, when they was talking, even though some of the stuff I was getting kind of bored, he didn't know that. He didn't know that, because I was respectful of him, that I know that he has a huge job, that he would give me, this girl that came from Jersey, a chance to talk and to share my ideas and to give me feedback back. Also, I never asked him for money. All I ever wanted was wisdom. The best thing ever for me, I didn't need Larry to give me shoes. I didn't need David to give me money for my organization. I just needed wisdom. And they respect that. And wisdom is the best thing, because that wisdom is going to help carry you to the next level. So you understand what I'm saying? It's not the best person, it's just the right person for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll know.
That.
And once you start practicing that, you'll know. Like when I see somebody say, oh, I think he's supposed to mentor me or be a part of something, you'll know, because it'll click as you start practicing that. You'll know.
Well, Ateba, I could listen to you all day, and and I don't mean to shut down the conversation, but I want to acknowledge that we're approaching our 45-minute time limit. Again, please tell us some more, but I also want to know that you might have other things you need to get to. So do you have some wishes for us? What if you were going to ask us to invent something? What do you think we need in the world?
Yeah. Well, if you have another question, I'm fine. Remember, I'm talking about myself.
I picked up on that trick.
So I'm just joking. But I don't have a class until 3. I have a 7-year-olds waiting for me at 3 o'clock. They're called Unreasonable kids. So, but yes, I was thinking about that. And what I've been noticing a lot with this COVID-19, and going into different stores, and then you get in your car, and I don't know if you notice a lot, you look on the ground and then you see the mask. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, so many people are changing their mask every day. I mean, this is worse than a diaper, a dirty diaper, it is, because we're constantly changing our mask, and people are just dropping it on the ground. People just leaving it. And then you don't want to touch it because because of what's happened with COVID-19. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I really think that what can we do to recycle? Can we recycle? How do we, because it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge problem. And nobody's really talking about that right now. What ideas would you do to curb that issue? Like to stop grocery store was up there. There was 3 in a parking lot. I went to a shopping center. There was in a parking lot. And it's dangerous because you don't know who had the mask, and you don't, so what would be the solution to that? That's the number one thing. that I would definitely look at. Also, I think the big thing is justice, education, entrepreneurship education, and for me, my passion, entrepreneurship education, excuse me, I'm just gonna tell you my opinion. Those that sell drugs or do things that are legal, I think that there needs to be some type of education for them to teach them how to create legal businesses, in my opinion. There's no more locking these young guys up because really they're suffering from UNSDG #1, which is poverty, and they try to figure out how to make $1. And they have single moms at home that need to pay their electric bill. And the only thing they have is the drug industry. They can't go, and if they have a record, you can't go to school to get FAFSA, to get a college degree. How do you teach them how to have, nobody wants to be a bus driver or pick up a certification or a trade or anything like that. They want to be able to use that. How you turn that hustle into a legal hustle. So environmental issues, I would say the mask. Social issues, I would say young Black boys ages 14 to 24 in urban neighborhoods selling drugs. How do you turn that illegal hustle into a legal hustle? How do you get entrepreneurship back into the communities for free? It makes no sense that, like the class I taught in Stanford, I tell everybody, the class was $7,000 per student. Somebody in the inner city can't afford that, but they need it. It's important. It changes social economic levels. It creates wealth, leadership qualities. What you all are learning here, I mean, this is wonderful. This is like the foundation of where you're going to go. And I know that it's going to be far because of the principles that's being taught through your program. But what about those that can't afford it? What about those that find themselves in jail right now, suffering from COVID because of overcrowdedness in prison systems? They're not doing anything about that. COVID is in the prison system. COVID is in the juvenile detention center system, and it's overcrowded. So we have to think about those things. And I know what it feels like to be hungry. It's not a good feeling. That's why for me, when I was a little girl growing up in Jersey, every day I had to come up with an idea how to get peanut butter cookies and a grape juice. I needed 50 cents. That's what I was going to eat, and get 25-cent cookies around a quarter to seats at Seatown. And I would eat them throughout the day. If it was a good day, I could get me a Helen's Pizza on the Ave. If it was an even better day, I'd get me an ice cream cone with rainbow sprinkles. And how did I do that? I would take newspapers that were Seatown newspapers that were free, that had coupons in it, go 2 blocks down. I didn't know about prisms then. Go 2 blocks down and sell it for 5 cents. Or I would go to the senior citizens and see if they need prescriptions picked up and charge them 15 cents. I always had something in my mind on how to raise money legally until I got later on, but legally initially when I was little, because I was hungry. We have to make it possible for kids that are hungry to be able to understand these principles, to be able to raise money to help not only themselves for personal use, but for their families as well.
So you're talking about entrepreneurship and creative problem solving, and you're talking about people who have found channels, but they might not be productive channels for that. But it's the intrinsic, or the what is known about how to hustle and turn a nickel into a dime is actually a good skill, an important skill.
Yeah, you just want to turn them into a legitimate hustler. Everybody, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a hustler. You are. I mean, you are. You have to come up with something creative. You have to hustle out there, work hard, get that product out there, understand the 4 Ps, understand the innovation, understand your customers. It's all, they have the skill sets. They just need the guidance, the training to turn it into a legal business. And also, if you want to do some research out there, it's called the crime drop rate. It's Parker. She's a professor from the University of Delaware. She did a lot of research on that, where it talks about the power of entrepreneurship education in the inner city. University of Delaware, her name is Professor Parker. It's called the crime drop rate. And she has a lot of data that shows that entrepreneurship education is powerful. That's why I commend all of you for being a part of these, all of you high schools to be a part of this program, because the entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, there's a lot of tools that you learn that's gonna help you throughout life. Yes, it's a powerful tool, powerful educational discipline.
We have a question from Jules here. I'll just read it out. You mentioned how you wanted to learn Chinese, so you went to PSU since you have a program for that. However, you eventually got removed at this point. Did you think about going to a different school to learn Chinese, or staying at the same school and finishing there, and why?
Well, no, because it was, so back then I had a strong Jersey accent, and a strong Jersey accent and Chinese was just not gonna mix. So, and I was fine with it. It wasn't like they kicked me out. They just kindly suggested. I could have stayed, but they kindly suggested. And what I found is that I liked Japanese. I liked really writing the characters and learning, and it was easier for me. Over the years, I have taken other courses. I took a course at Old Dominion. Me and my daughter doing a Chinese class right now on one of these platforms that she found. Matter of fact, I was supposed to go to China in August of last year. I got a position to teach at a university in China, but my grandmother was sick, so I decided to stay here. So I still have ties. I've been to China 4 times. I love it. But yeah, it was fine. They kindly encouraged me. I wasn't offended. I don't get offended by stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, really? You know, I'm just excited to try something new. And I wound up loving it. I loved learning the Japanese language.
So maybe it was another not yet, and now's the time for yet.
Yeah. Yes. But that was a great question. And Jules, and my daughter's name is Jewel.
I want to thank you again. I think we're really approaching our time limit for you, and we have to get back to some of our work. We're inventing stuff, and
oh, good.
One of the things that struck me as you were talking about entrepreneurship too is I was trained as an engineer. Well, I came from a farm. I learned how to be an engineer, and I think some folks who get into the STEM field sometimes think that the buying and selling, the business, the marketing, the connecting with finance and all that is like somebody else's problem. But I'm believing these days that understanding that and incorporating that way of thinking into your technical, find out where the circuit needs to be connected, or how big the beam needs to be, or what kind of motor you need to attach. Having that larger perspective really adds a lot.
I mean, it is. I mean, engineering, I think if I could go back into it, I think I probably would have picked that up as well. I think it's something that it goes well with entrepreneurship and STEM and all that. I was thinking about, I don't know, you might want to look this up, but there's are you interested in artificial intelligence? I don't know. I'm interested in artificial intelligence. So
yeah, sort of scared by it too, but yeah.
Yeah. So one of the speakers that came on just quickly, she was telling me that there is a new fiber being developed, AI fiber, that people are looking to put that into clothing. And what that AI fiber could detect is, so that's another thing that is new in the invention area, is this new AI fiber. And it can detect if you could have corona, or it could detect health, it could detect body. There's an AI fiber. And I think I can send the article, there's a research article on it. I can send some more information, but that's another area of design that is gonna, I believe, AI is really hot right now. IoT, AI, unmanned machines, all that stuff. That's important to know. And that's where we're going really as a country in that area. But look up AI fiber if you're looking at designing clothing or technical clothing, or that's a hot area as well. I think so.
Great. I'll definitely look that up. One of the themes we were considering for this camp was wearable technology before COVID hit, and then COVID just sort of like became such a dominant thing, which doesn't mean that we couldn't think about wearable, but yeah, there's a lot of ideas.
And that's what I was thinking with the mask. That's what I was saying, with the design of it, because currently you have where you can take water. I don't know if you know, but you can take water bottles, and now there's t-shirts, shirts, and clothing that's made out of water bottles. They're taking those, breaking it down into materials that you can have as clothing that can be made out of it, tires. And so just to think about how to use those masks in a way that could be reusable or and made into another fiber. But yeah, that's where a lot of things are going, like the design of new fibers. They call it upscaling. I think it's like reusable upscaling, where you're using other things to design another type of wearable product. And at Nike, that's where I worked. I worked with footwear and apparel in that industry. So I think that to me is really interesting. And then how could we create something that could detect COVID? In my opinion, I think it's this AI fiber. I think that's going to be a new thing coming down the line.
Well, I can sense the ripples here going through the audience about new ideas you're just giving us left and right. One more time, I want to thank you for coming to see us today and sharing your story and your inspiration. These are ideas that in some ways are so universal, but boy, your story is so compelling and your wisdom is so helpful. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Kyle, I see now I finally clicked over. I swiped to the right so I can see everybody. It's a lot of people on, but I just want to say thank you for listening. Hi, everybody, Mercedes and B and Tyler and everything. So, Sydney. But I want to say thank you so much for having me. I look forward to hearing.
Hold on, we can't hear you.
We lost your sound.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
I want to say, really embrace this opportunity. Embrace it. It's important. We need your young energy right now. We need your creative talent right now. We need for you to become unreasonable thinkers, unreasonable designers, unreasonable entrepreneurs, unreasonable engineers, developers, product developers. Just remember, think outside of that box. When you begin to create something, think, has it been done before? And if it has, move away from that. A lot of people say, oh, create a product and make it better. No, forget that. Don't make it better. Make something new. Isn't that, I think that's more exciting. But be like, really go into this week, like really excited about what you can create. Because what you're doing is you're giving back to our society. We need you. We need your brains. We need your tenacity. We need your creative ability. So please, 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 from Unreasonable kids out here in Virginia, go forth and design. Wait, is that Star Wars? I think that's like Star Wars. Go forth. I wish I had, let me see. This is my Star Wars thing. Go forth and design in the world. I send you forth. Darth Vader. No, the Darth Vader was the bad one. The good Vader, do it for good.
The Jedis.
The Jedis, yes. So go forth, Jedis, and do your thing.
Thank you so much, Ateba. We really appreciate all your words of wisdom, and I know they've gone very deeply into me. Thank you so much for joining us today. And also, you're so delightful.
Oh, thank you. You're looking at me like, what? Is she serious? Yes, I'm serious. I'm like this all the time. But all right.
You are Wonder Woman. You are a Jedi. Thank you.
And,
thank you.
All right.
And best of luck inspiring more and more unreasonable kids. You're already doing a great job. But yeah, keep that up. That's really important.